that's paralysing, but it certainly gets in the way of all sorts of things, right? And that was then, and this is now. And have you recovered? I suppose is what I'm asking you.
What do you mean?
Well, it's an impossible way to live.
What, being leader of the Labour Party?
Yeah.
I'm a work in progress, I think I would say, Look, I think it is it's an experience that I don't regret. I regret losing, but I don't regret having the experience of having been leader. I regret some of the things that I did or didn't do. Like I wish I'd been bolder, that's, generally what I feel. But there is a sort of degree of trauma associated with it, probably, And when I sometimes say...
Because you can't be yourself. I suppose that's what I'm asking you. Very often you cannot be yourself.
Well, maybe that's part of it, but also frontline politics, it's hard. When I said in the meeting we were in just now, conversation, the reason I'm in this is because of climate and because of the chance to do something really important, despite the challenges of frontline politics. What I mean is, it's kind of like being a frontline politician has, there are a lot of harder jobs in the world, all that, but there's quite a lot of exposure and, all of that stuff, which I don't like.
But it's still worth it.
Well, look, partly what I liked about that event, candidly, is if you feel you're making an argument to people that they kind of get what you're saying, you think, well, I'm making some headway here.
Okay, so a great deal of noise was made about the COP summit when it was in Glasgow.
Nice music, by the way.
However many months on, however many months on, how do you feel about the COP process right now?
Bop-worthy music.
Less bop, more COP.
Very good. That's what you get the big Guardian bucks for.
It really is.
I don't feel great about where it is. I think what's happened is that the oil and gas, the Russian invasion of Ukraine and the spike in gas prices and oil prices, I think it's quite pivotal. We didn't really talk about this in the chat, actually. It's quite pivotal what the reaction is. My view is it means you should double down on the renewable transition because it's the cheapest, cleanest, quickest form of power. But I think a lot of countries are retreating from that and are saying, oh, well, fossil fuels, we just need our own fossil fuels. Now, in the short term, if you're Europe, you understand, if you want to stop importing Russian oil and gas, you've got some big challenges. But I'm really sceptical that the answer to a fossil fuel crisis is more fossil fuels.
Okay. You going to see Paul McCartney later?
Definitely. I'm trying to persuade my kids, too.
I don't know. My kids are
sell?
Beatles obsessive. What I told my kids about seeing Paul McCartney is, you don't get this chance very often.
I think you might need to come and tell my kids
to see creatively more than a quarter of the Beatles, and that's Paul McCartney there. To my mind, it's like I wasn't interested in the Platinum Jubilee, but it's my Platinum Jubilee. It's something about memory and history.
Well, I was
this person being in the same field as all.
I was trying to say that to them, but you might need to.
I'll probably say, God, Dad, that sounds boring.
Yeah, more or less.
Or he's got great tunes. Right, brilliant. This summer is sort of really rearing up as quite an interesting, tantalising, but also frustrating political moment, I think. Because some of the job of a political journalist is you have to sort of sense whether or not we're in a change moment, which the basis of that is that the government has to change. And we all know what they look like, right? You get massive ones like 1945, 1979 when Mr. Thatcher arrived, and then you get other ones like 97 and 2010 when you get a change of government, but perhaps the changes aren't sort of transformational, right? But either way, there's a change. Now, it feels to me like sort of change is in the air, but we've only got half of what you need for it. In other words, the government's fallen apart, but the forces that are raged against the government are not really in the right place. The leadership of the Labour Party doesn't have nearly enough to say. In any case, people who don't want to vote Conservative anymore are raged across parties other than the Labour Party. There's much more to it than that, right? Look at what's happened in Scotland over the last 15 or so years. Look at the rising support for the Green Party. Look at the fact that Lib Dems won Tiverton and Honiton by a landslide, right? Or a relative landslide. They overturned the Tory majority, right? How do you sort of glue all that together in some way? because that's the way the world works. And I think what's been interesting about this weekend is you get a sense of what that might mean. Andy Burnham came to say that non-Tory parties have to cooperate to radically change the way that power and politics works. Zara Sultana's all about sort of action outside Parliament, the politics of movement and all that. And then you saw that really quite amazing spectacle of Ed Miliband, who wanted to be the Prime Minister not so long ago, was the leader of the opposition, sitting in front of an audience perched on logs, half of whom were sort of Extinction Rebellion activists, and they got on okay, right? So, in Glastonbury, people associate this with sort of getting away from the world and all that, but it sort of clarified my thoughts, I think, in various ways. Most people come in to mess up their brains, don't they? I think mine might be working slightly better now. Thanks for listening. I hope you enjoyed today's episode. If you did, make sure you subscribe to Politics with Me UK, wherever you get your podcasts, and it better be a nice one. This episode was produced by Frankie Toby, the sound was by Solomon King, the music was by Axel Coutier, and the executive producer was Matt Ebter and Cole Jackson.
This is The Guardian.